Lord of mercy, we are running around the house with a pickle in our mouth for the final episode of season 3. Now, if you saw my last video, which was the first half of the finale of season 3, you'll see I lost power at the very end. So, yes, we had a storm roll through yesterday and I lost power, and so that's why I ended so awkwardly. But I got everything I really had to say out, so I was able to do it, and then we lost internet. So here we are again. But I'm excited about this because I really enjoyed this finale. The Righteous Gemstones has a history, at least the 3 seasons we've seen, of ending the season with an episode that could be considered the season finale, the series finale. And I get why they do that. They do that because they never know when they film if they're coming back, if HBO is going to renew their contract. And so far, we've been lucky. Season 4 has been confirmed, so I'm very happy with that. I love this stupid show. So, without further ado, let me explain who I am so you'll understand how I'm coming at this, because not everybody will. My name is Suzanne Tidkemeyer, and for over 10 years, I wrote a daily column called No Longer Quivering. It was hosted at Pathos for many years. And in that column, I wrote every day about the evangelical movement, the evangelical quiverful movement, the evangelical non-denominational, high-demand religious organization, is what we like to call it here, a taco church. And I wrote about that. I had many years living in one of those churches, the kind of church that would send me to hell right now if they knew I was sitting here with shorts on and lipstick. I would be in major, major trouble. So that's the kind of church. When I first joined, we had to wear very jumpery like things. By the end, it was more Righteous Gemstones kind of outfits. Not anything too outrageous, though. We didn't end up with Judy's. Judy's always wearing something glittery and purplish and or blue, and I'm fine with that. I am perfectly fine with however you want to show up at church. But I will say this from my years at these places, that if you're on the platform, that's a whole different ball game to what you can wear than if you're in the congregation. If you're wearing a blouse up there with little sparkles on it, it won't be frowned upon. If you're to wear a sparkly blouse and something flattering and you're sitting in the pews, they might pull you aside and talk to you about your humility. Or better yet, your modesty. And that's where we get to see like Amber Gemstone and Judy fall down on the job. You're not supposed to be showing your boobs that much in these churches, but if your leadership, everybody kisses your ass and nobody pays attention to what you're doing. So I've been rambled about that enough. Let me go actually into the episode. We are finally going to get Baby Billy's Bible Bonkers, and I, for one, am so excited. So excited. So Baby Billy starts talking about Y2K. And if you've heard me talk at the beginning of this episode, this season, about Y2K in these types of churches, it was insane. Not just Amy Lee and Eli selling food buckets, but they were a lot of organizations that was selling all kinds of stuff. My own church started doing conferences on this and started explaining what you had to do. I knew people that bought case after case after case after case of toilet paper, generators, a Generac whole house generators, all sorts of things. They went far into debt to do this because Y2K was coming and it was going to be the end of the world. So Baby Billy is explaining how when Y2K happened and it wasn't the end of the world, that he and Dusty Daniels were hanging out. And Dusty Daniels was the NASCAR racer. that hung out with the Gemstones, with a Gemstones member. And it said that they went to a club in Vegas. They were hanging out with Gene effing Hackman. Y2K. So they showed there were dirty House of Ill Repute antics and some crazy sexual episodes. And you had Dusty Daniels and Baby Billy getting laid side by side. I laughed so hard at that. It was so bizarrely funny. So, the new thing is Baby Billy started pushing his Bible bonkers again, and he started pitching it as Gemstones versus Simpkins. Now, if you remember, Simpkins was the last name of the guy who was giving Jesse crap when Jesse joined his secret organization with the cape and everything, and they were giving him the white slap and all of that. So they decided to hash it out on the first episode of Baby Billy's Bible Bonkers. And I'm going bonkers for that. I'm one of those people that every time I used to play Jeopardy online quite a bit. And once the Bible category came out, it was like, boom, that was my category. My years of Fundy Town had given me superior knowledge of that. I could blow anybody away. Once that category come up, that was mine. So then we cut to Peter. Poor, sad, lonely Peter Montgomery, now that his militia has Judas themselves off somewhere else, and Peter has called the FBI and had them all picked up. So Peter doesn't even have the money to put gas in the bomb truck. So he shuffles into a grocery store that has Coinstar. Now, I don't know how many of you are familiar with Coinstar, but you save your coins in a bucket. I could grab right now. I've got some. I've got two of them. I've got Costa Rican coins. I've got American coins. But you take your stuff in, you pour it in the Coinstar. It counts your coins. It gives you a receipt, and then you walk up to the cashier who pays you whatever your amount is, which means he can go get gas without having to pay for it in nickels, which would be crazy. But before Peter gets out of the car to go to the Coinstar, he runs a real guilt trip on Chuck. He starts telling him how much he loves him and all of that. He starts pressing the parental guilt buttons really, really hard. But it doesn't work. Okay? While he's in there doing his Coinstar thing, suddenly we see a fireball in the parking lot. And we know that Chuck has detonated the bomb, either accidentally or on purpose. We don't know. But I have to think at that point in the episode that Chuck has purposely done it to keep Peter from going to the Gemstones church and detonating it in the parking lot where it would do a lot more damage. Oh, and once the news hits May and Big Carl through the news, through a newscast, they go into the deepest mourning. The deepest mourning for Chuck. And then Jesse goes to issue the Baby Billy's Bible Bonkers challenge to the Simpkins. He dons his little cape. He goes to issue his glove slap to Simpkins at the club. And he's doing his Baby Billy Bible Bonkers funny cape business. They both are. They're just swirling those capes like mad. And it's mad funny. Now, this is still a redemption arc show. Last two episodes, that is what it is. And there is nothing that evangelical churches love more than a redemption arc. I gotta say, I still love it too. Even though I'm unaffiliated with a church right now. I love to see when things work out in the end, and I go, oh. So Peter is outside of a convenience store. Peter Montgomery. He's desperate. He's hunkered down out front looking like a homeless dude. He's praying, 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 praying. Oh, Lord. You see, he's at the most desperate point we've seen him at yet. And that's saying something because we saw him rob a bank. Then he looks up and sees the Smut Busters van roll up. The Smut Busters van, which is Keith's thing. And Keith comes walking out, goes to the convenience store, comes out and sees his Smut Busters van is gone. Peter has taken that van, and Lord knows what he's going to do to that with that stupid van, besides show up where he's not wanted. Oh, and then we get a really sad sequence with May May and Big Carl crying and praying at their old church, and they're cleaning it. They're cleaning the old church. They're making everything right again while praying. And then this happens. Chuck shows up. I could not believe it. Chuck shows up. Come back home. So it's a theme in this episode too. Chuck came back home. They all came back to the Gemstones. Apologies, apologies, apologies. You know, Chuck apologized to them. Judy and Kelvin immediately give their apologies, and they receive the they give forgiveness to Chuck, and it's actually kind of beautiful. Jesse is a little harder nut to crack. Jesse refuses to accept the apology, and we see him in the Gemstones theme park riding the go-karts around and around and around. I love me some go-karts. And Chuck starts chasing Jesse, starts running to him. And then Jesse and Chuck, they have a really good conversation about fathers, how their fathers have failed them, and how they have to pick themselves up, dust themselves off, and move on. Like I said about the Toby Mac song, where I said, I can turn your eyes to freedom, but I can't make you see. I can turn your eyes to freedom, but I can't make you see it. That's another Toby Mac song, Move, that I absolutely love, that pretty much talks about the same thing. It's about how things can be really crappy, but the best thing you can do is just keep moving forward. And I found that's really a truism in life. And that is what I have done. Yesterday, like I said, was a really horrible day for me on so many levels because I was saying goodbye to a good friend and various things. But it was a move day. It was like Jesse and Chuck. You get up and you do it. Chuck says, it's up to us now. There's forgiveness all around. Everybody's coming home. Cool cousins again. And then we get Baby Billy's Bible Bonkers starting up. They start praying and trying to figure out who's going to do what, and the cousins get added to the Gemstones team. Baby Billy is super thankful that this whole thing is about to go off. And then they start arguing over their daddy in the room where they're all putting on their makeup. I guess the green room you'd call it, dressing rooms. They're all in there, and Baby Billy is saying that he is like their daddy, that he's been their daddy at various points. And there's been some moments where he has been, but I think he's kind of extrapolating and making more out of it than it actually is, mountain out of a molehill. He kisses them all, and then he gives them the answer cards and say, look, I'm giving you all this just in case you don't know the answers, so you can go out there and kick Simpkins' butts so that you can get our NASCAR racer back. Jesse says no to that. He says they've done that sort of thing too much in their life. They've slid by not doing the work. And that seems to be a real theme with Jesse this episode. And I got to say, I'm loving it. So they tear up the cards. Jesse does it. He tries to toss them. He tries to toss them, tries to tear them up. And there's a funny sequence where he can't get it torn up and he just tosses them in the trash can. Eli and May May start following Peter Montgomery. They see him at a stoplight when they're on their way to the taping of Baby Billy's Bible Bonkers. They see Peter and they say, what in the heck is he doing in that smut buster van? So they start following him. And you have Gideon driving, of course, because he's now Eli's driver. And they chase him. And then we're at what the thing is we've all wanted, Baby Billy's Bible Bonkers. Well, if Reddit is anything to go by, we've all talked about if we don't get Baby Billy's Bible Bonkers by the last episode, we're going to riot. We had gotten to that point. It starts up and it is the craziest looking opening for a game show ever. And trust me, I watched a ton of game shows in the 1960s and 70s when I was a little kid and I was going to my babysitter's house or just hanging out with my aunts. We watched all the crazy ones, including the ones that had the super dirty double entendres. So they had the craziest opening sequence. Baby Billy comes out, he's singing, he's dancing, he's just doing the Watusi and whatever, and he has male dancers all dressed up, they're dancing. Aunt Tiffany is playing the piano, and I am just like, yes, yes. He says it's God's favorite game. So we get a bunch of corny. And it seems to be like Family Feud cross with Jeopardy. And like I was saying earlier, I've always loved Jeopardy. I've played online Jeopardy quite a bit. When I worked for the USO, I helped work a Jeopardy tryout when they came over to Germany. And we worked the Jeopardy tryout for the soldiers. Myself and many others from the USO did this, and it was fun. So this is kind of like Jeopardy and Family Feud. It ain't going well for Jesse and pals. Jesse and the family, they start getting their ass kicked by the Simpkins early on. And I was shocked at how many of the answers I knew. I mean, if I'd have been there, I'd have been kicking ass. I'd have been ringing in quick and kicking some ass. But the Simpkins were kicking ass. And the Gemstones don't get 0.1 in round one. So for round two, they haul out the hurricane booth and they stick Jesse in it. And they show that every time there's a wrong answer, they're going to start the hurricane in there. And it looks kind of like a booth that I saw at a science museum. I think it was the one in Virginia Beach, where you could get in there, you could push a button, and you could experience a hurricane. It would have hurricane force winds. So that's what this looks like, and it's pretty crazy because they have glitter and little sparkly things in there blowing around with the wind. Oh, so Eli, May May, and Gideon confront Peter in the parking lot of the Gemstone building. The parking lot, and May May begs Peter to admit that he's lost Christ, and he won't. He won't admit it. He's making up his bomb. He still has a bomb. He has a bomb in the back of the Smut Busters. There it is, his bomb. And he says he's going to blow the place up, and he's got it wired to a Fitbit on his wrist. He's got a Fitbit, and says it's wired on, and that if the Fitbit loses its heartbeat, then the whole place goes up. So they can't shoot him because, of course, you got Eli. I think he had his gun, if I remember right. You've got Gideon, who has some serious martial arts chops, and they're all backed off because of the bomb. But as they're standing there arguing, a swarm of what I can only describe as locusts comes along. This big black cloud, and all I could think of was when I was a child reading Little House on the Prairie. and Laura Ingalls Wilder talking about the plague of locusts that came through when they were living out west and just destroyed everything for several years. So this swarm of locusts, you can't fight them. It's a huge black cloud. They stream into the studio. Into the studio in the middle of Baby Billy's Bible Bonkers, creating even more havoc. Chaos comes out and destroys Baby Billy's dream. Everything just goes to heck. Jesse proves that he is true blue. He saves Dusty. You have Big Carl and Chuck saving their mama, saving May May. Jesse goes to find Eli and others. He is determined that his people are coming out alive and unharmed. Interestingly, Mr. Simpkins does not save a soul. He does not even go out and save his family. I mean, and Jesse does stuff like put his folks in the hurricane dome at one point because there were a lot less little flying critters in there. And that does not go well for Simpkins. It just does not, Simpkins, because he didn't save anybody. He is not a godly man. So Peter sees this plague of locusts as God's hand. He admits he's wrong, which is huge. Come back, come home, come home. And May apologizes to him. I mean, there's a sweet apology in the parking lot. And just about the time somebody utters the famous words, God moves in mysterious ways, a locust blows off the Fitbit. And Peter sacrifices himself. He gets in the Smut Busters van that's filled with the bomb, that he knows how long the bomb has before it goes off, and he starts driving it away as fast as he can. And as they all stand in the parking lot, you see this cloud of flames at the distance. You go, oh, Peter. And then we open on Eli giving Dusty Daniel's funeral, which is full of giggles, even though it is a funeral. The siblings flip the bird at Simpkins and are like, woo-wee, sucker. And then you show Dusty Daniels sitting upright in his race car, and they bury the race car with him in it instead of him in a casket. I'm not entirely sure that's legal, but it is the Deep South, and different rules apply for things up north and in the Midwest that you would never do. You can get away with in the Deep South. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So he's buried sitting straight up. And then they show a commercial of Judy and BJ, and you will never guess what they're doing. They're doing a commercial for Amber's ministry, The System. They're selling The System and talking about how it has improved their marriage, how it put them back together after a really rough time. So we have to guess that that is what they did post-cheating. We don't know what happened with Steve, the naked worship guitarist. We don't know any of that. Judy and Amber make up, and it's actually a sweet moment. And we see Kelvin and Keith in their Smut Busters van talking about hitting a porn star. They want to go there and buy up everything. And then they start talking and realize maybe they shouldn't care what anybody else's bedroom games are at all. Live and let live. And it's a huge thing because earlier in the season, Keith was all about the Smut Busters. Jesse puts Pontius in military school, where Pontius is cussing him out and upset and has his head shaved and the whole 9 yards. He's wearing his uniform. He's squared away. And Jesse explains that his life was made unnecessarily hard, and he made a lot of bad choices because he didn't earn anything, because everything was handed to him on a silver platter. And he doesn't want that for Pontius. He wants Pontius to earn what he is going to receive in life. And I think that's a huge thing. And some kids do well in military school. I'm not saying that's the answer for everybody. No, but some do. And then Gideon goes and tells Eli while they're fishing that he wants to learn preaching from him. He wants to follow in Eli's footsteps. And we've kind of seen this redemption arc all along, starting when he stops Scotty from stealing all the money and he goes to Haiti to make sure that to be able to work on a project so that the Haitians have clean water. So this is something we've been seeing just go in the entire series, and it's a sweet moment too. And then we hit the very last sequence, which was parts laughs and parts tears. I cried copiously, and I admit I weep easily. Not as easily as I once did, and not as easily as I do when I'm on steroids, where I can watch the Poseidon Adventure and cry when the boat flips upside down. But like other seasons of this show, they had a very touching last sequence. We see Peter. Peter is with his sons and his wife. He's lost part of his leg from the explosion, but he's alive and well, and he looks great. The gemstones are all together, all of them. And they're sitting around their lawn chairs, and they're taking turns driving Redeemer. F yeah, they're all taking turns doing it. Even Peter with his mobility device on his leg. Keith and Kelvin have matching rockers, not just Kelvin's giant rocker that Keith made him, but Keith has his own, and they sit there side by side grinning. This is all to a soundtrack by Dolly Parton, one of Dolly Parton's songs, and you could not get a better, more fitting song than what was going on while that was going on. Everybody drives the Redeemer. Martin is there, even though he's not family, but he is family, and he drove the Redeemer. And as the camera pulls away for the final shot, we see Amy Lee standing at the fence watching him, smiling, happy, looking over them, and we're out. What an amazing, amazing final sequence. And like I said, that is one thing that I absolutely loved. Come home. Come home. All is forgiven. We're family. We should all love each other. And that's really what I took away from this. And that is a lesson that evangelicalism really needs to learn. They don't have. Most of them don't have. They say they do, but they don't. I love you guys. Thank you for taking this ride with me. I'm going to go back to reviewing it from the beginning and putting these up probably once or twice a week. Now that we have hit the end of season 3, and I'm going to go back through and do them all. Because there are things to be learned from there, and there are also puzzling parts that if you're not familiar with evangelicalism, you're just not going to get. Love you guys. Thanks for watching.